property in terms of destruction. Their supplies, their stocks have been destroyed, and very few of them may have insured for riots and public. They may have insured for fire and other things. But when you go and take up the insurance policy around public riots and destruction, it's a very, very expensive policy. And very few business people will be able to take that. So there are consequences. And those are the ones we say that are detrimental to not just FDI, but even to local domestic investors, because you must also have the local investor doing his bit so that the foreign direct investor can also understand there is need to invest in that country. So we can only appeal to our young people that as we do what we have to do, when it is necessary for us to do it, let us make sure that we do it within the confines of the law and look at the bigger picture that we want to create. I think, let me rest my case there for the time being.
Honorable Chair and Honorable Members, I will try and focus on areas that the Honorable Prime Cabinet Secretary has not touched on. The first one is on the issue you raised, Chair, on the ANA. Yes, we have a large part of our country. Most of our people are in the informal sector, but they also get services from government. And there are levies and fees which are charged. And this is an area we are focused on as what we call non-tax revenue. So we take your views on board, because I think you mentioned about the sports fund and the tourism fund. We will work around it to streamline. And there's a lot that is going on that area. Perhaps we can present to you in a future date, but so much is happening, including forcing every entity of government that provides services to move to e-citizen platform, because we have a greater view. And since we moved most of the entities to e-citizen platform, we have seen daily transactions captured have now increased from around 70 million. And the last figure I saw last Friday was around 350 million. And there is a possibility with greater support to the government digital unit, which is under Mr. Ndungu, and also the State Department of ICT and e-citizen department, we could actually raise it to even $1 billion shillings. So I think that's work in progress, and we agree with you, including IRA. We want every entity to indicate how much they are raising. On the issue of development, the issue of the constitutionality on development budget and the 1.5 billion haircut, I will want to give Mwenda. He will come to it later. Vice Chair, you spoke about the impact of the 47 SOEs. And yes, we are going to have a two-stage approach. First, we have identified those 47. We have to get approval from Cabinet, which we have that to go ahead. Now we are going through consultations to do mergers and wind up where necessary. And it will be two-stage. There will be no no employee who will lose their job initially. But what we want to save is the recurrent expenditure, like rent, another vehicles and the rest. There are many areas we can save, even as we work out on how to deal with the staff. And so I want to give that assurance that there is no one who is losing their job, at least initially, as we work on the second part to make sure that even when you leave, you are living with some, at least send-off or some money that at least you go and start your life. So, and some are even parastatals when they could best be departments in ministries. So those will go, and I think we don't have enough time now, but we can provide the details on this. For pending bills, I think this question in June, he mentioned that the committee will finalize his work. It work in probably between 4 and 500 billion. Then once that is determined, we have it recognized within the fiscal framework and provide for it to be exchequer, which is bills already incurred. We only allowed 76 billion to be carryovers because there is no way they can be fast charged, like counties did not get 1 month. So we have to budget for them to get in this year the money they were to get last year. The same for the CDF, unless the honorable members accept to forego the 13.5 billion, we thought we could budget it so that you are paid together with the budget for this year. The same thing for our pensioners who are not paid. That money already incurred, and we need to make sure we safeguard our pensioners. And so that is ring-fenced. So the balance from 220 minus 76, the balance now becomes fast charge in this year's budget. And as per the circulars already released by the Minister for Finance. And yes, it is true that our growth rate will be affected because cutting that, much like the 100 and almost half of our development budget has been cut. Definitely this will slow down, but it is an area that we expect that we will not stay in this space for long. It is a temporary situation that we are in, and we are certain that we will come out of it. The issue of austerity measures and corruption, I think Honorable PCS has touched on it, and I think I leave it to that. Auditing public debt. I want to assure Kenyans that we are very transparent. In fact, I don't think there is any country that's as transparent as Kenya. You visit our website and you will see that we have a summary statement of public debt. The last one we just uploaded last week for 22-23 in foreign currency. It indicates bilateral donors, all of them, what currency we have borrowed in, how much is outstanding, how much principal is being paid, drawdowns, and outstanding amount which is remaining. And it's very detailed. You can get all the information you need. And this information is from 2009 up to now. Then there are also other information that if you want to get about debt, you can actually get them from, if you visit our website, you can have our annual borrowing plan, our annual debt management reports are there, our borrowing program performance, our debt and borrowing policy, our debt sustainability analysis, if you want to see, external debt public register, we have it, external resources estimates handbook, fiscal commitment and contingent liabilities, our guaranteed debt is available, Kenya's external resources policy, and many, many others. Our website is very rich. If you have any information, please visit. But over and above that, our Auditor General also gives regular reports on this. I think Honorable PCS has talked about projects, and as answered, we don't target any projects in terms of who voted what. I think at least at the level of our technical team. And areas of budget cuts, I know the issue of equity has come in and has come in before. We have taken note of that. And of course, austerity over 5 years, these are also things we have put in place. When we do our fiscal framework, we make sure we also do the projections on all those. So I think Honorable Milo Odhiambo, you spoke about, you also spoke about equity and the need to preserve people projects. I wish we could, but it was very difficult to go through it. But I think what guided is, of course, what is priority for this government and what is ring-fenced are under better bottom-up economic transformation as projects which are important. But definitely there are areas that I would not have wanted to see suffering: electricity, roads. Those are important areas for our communities. But it's one of those, unfortunately, we had to suffer. And then Secretary General, I think you called him Daktari, I didn't get the name. I think you also spoke about areas of budget cuts. And I agree with you, if we don't address some of these things, and that's why we hope we can get out of this space where we have to do budget cuts, especially that are very important areas. There are areas like Recurrent, and if you look at it, you will see, I don't know if I have it with me here, we have done 100% cut. Let me just go through that area so that you can see which area has suffered what. Yes. On page 17, if you all of the document that you have, that the Prime CS read, we have cut communication supplies and services by 20%. And it's because we had done it earlier, but also because people are not traveling, we don't want to impact also on internet. So we must still provide for money for internet so that people can be able to do virtual meetings and all that. That's why there is ring fencing. Domestic travel and subsistence, we have done a cut of 50%, and this is a further cut to what we had under the PPS. For membership fees, dues and subscription to professional and trade bodies, we have done 100% cut. Foreign travel and subsistence and other transportation costs, we is suffering 20% further cut from what we had done earlier. Training is the same thing, another 20% cut. Hospitality supplies and services, unfortunately, yes, it's going to affect our hotels, but it's an area where if you cut travel, then definitely it also affects on that. Confidential expenditures, 100% cut. And contracted professional services, 20%. Monitoring and evaluation is an area we didn't like, but we had to do 100%. Even other operating expenses, 100%. Then all refurbishment of buildings, we have cut 100% in terms of the budget. Purchase of motor vehicles and other transport equipment is like frozen. Nothing, 100% cut. Purchase of office furniture and general equipment, 100% cut. Purchase of generators, 100% cut. Rehabilitation and renovation, 100%. Housing loans to public servants, I think is also affected. I think you have this table. It is an indication of where we have tried to focus on. We wish we had more on this. I think I already told you that most of the recurrent expenditure is what we call autonomous. You have very little to cut. And if I can just draw numbers for you so that I make my point, we have in this budget 2.832 trillion as recurrent expenditure. Out of this, we have domestic interest, which is 750 billion, and foreign interest, 260 billion. So only to service interest payment, that's 1.01 trillion. Then pension is around 186. So you're talking about 1.2 trillion of 2.8. So 2.8 minus 1.8 is 1.6. Out of that, we have salaries here that I see here, wages and salaries of around 650 billion. And this excludes salaries to sagas. And then you look at the others now, or junior secondary capitation, for instance, civil service reform, farming, KRA reforms, defense. All this, you have very little to cut. So the recurrent expenditure is basically, you can't do much. That's why the only area we could do, we tried our best to cut expenditure on recurrent, and we only managed to cut under the executive recurrent budget on O&M. You see on page 4, we managed 15 billion. Removal of the office of the First Lady and Second Lady, we managed 1.2 billion. Rationalization of the budget for advisors was done by 50%, and we managed about 600 billion. And I think Parliament, you lost 2.7, Judiciary lost 500, and then private, there's capitation also, where we have lost about 1.7 billion. And then reduction of earmarked provision of phase 2 salary adjustment, which was for all public servants. We have had to spend this 15 billion. And really this is an area we would have wanted as National Treasury to make sure our employees at least are getting some salary increment. I think we indicated the Maraga task force. We request you to look at it, if possible, with some minor adjustment. It would really be good for our security sector. If you
Around how much?
Around 3.5 billion, which will be enough for at least to address the security sector, including police, and the other security areas. If you can look at that, that would be great. So I think I've answered that to say there is very little room. Then debt, our borrowing, our capacity to borrow is not there anymore. In the last 10 years, it has dwindled. I think when we started 10 years ago, our current capacity for debt was rated low, no high. And our possibility of risk, I mean debt, we call it debt risk.
Elevated debt risk.
Elevated debt risk was very low. Then by 5 years ago, it was rated medium. 3 years ago, it went to high. So we were at a cliff. So if you continue taking more, then you can easily find yourself in a sustainable position. And I welcome all of you to read the DSA, Debt Sustainability Report, in our website. You will see all the details. So the best way to go forward is to do fiscal consolidation, meaning lessen debt, rationalize expenditure, and work on revenues. And that is what we have been trying to do. Unfortunately, in this budget, we have had to move from the budget, the 3.2% of budget deficit that we wanted. Because we tried our best to cut expenditure, we could not do much. And that's why we said we have to borrow to the tune of 4.3. Something, if we had passed the finance bill, probably would have gotten enough revenue to pass that. So I think I will stop here. I know Honorable David Ocheng raised, and Prime CS has answered you. Of course, we have a process that we go through when coming up with the finance bill, starting from, I think now we are going to do, in September, we go for sector working groups. Then we get budget policy statement by December. Then we get public views. People write to us in Treasury. We get a lot of proposals, very many. Then we have a committee that sits to look at that, and then whatever we agree, finally it goes to cabinet. Cabinet then owns it and comes to you, to Parliament. You also have a role as Parliament, and that's how we do. Just to say that we've been trying, in coming up with the finance bill, we were looking at fiscal consolidation, and I think without the finance bill now, we are pushing KRA to look at technology deployment. And I hope KRA staff is here. I think I saw Mwangi. We will want him to tell us what they are doing. There is targets we have set for them to raise more revenue even when we don't have additional tax measures. We have tax policy which has been approved by Parliament, by Cabinet, and also it came to you, to Parliament. We have generated a medium-term revenue strategy out of it. And if you look at that strategy, the intention is actually to lower the tax rate, coming down. Corporate tax is supposed to come down from 30% to 25%. VAT is supposed to come from 16 to around 14. So the idea is to really come down over the medium term. It's just that we were in extraordinary situations where this could not happen this time round. But the intention is to broaden the tax base, have more Kenyans in the tax bracket, then we can have lower tax rates. And because we need to focus more on consumption tax than income tax. I think the people bearing the greatest amount of this burden is at the salary, those who are earning salary. And there are many who are not earning salary, but I think could also find their way into the tax bracket. So we have KRA reforms. I'll ask the gentleman there to speak to it. And I think I want to stop here and give Mr. Mwenda to address those ones that I have not addressed, because he's also the key technical person that advises the PS.
Before you go there, Honorable Shinari, you had something to say.
Before the PS moves out of there, If you go on your page 17, number 7, there is examination fee and invigilation fees. You've removed 100%. Does this include the O-level? Because we know Form 4 is still there, plus 8 might have been phased out.
Yeah, I think this is an area, unfortunately, suffered the cut. It is for you as a committee, you need to look at it how this can be addressed. But from what came, we could not do much about it, yeah.
PSA, the only way for us to look at it is to reinstate, unfortunately. So
Chairman, on the same page.
You will guide us on that.
Yeah, we will discuss, because this, I have to be truthful. That is an area that suffered the cut.
Members, let Mwenda first complete, then we take the last round.
Chairman, on the same page.
I'm coming there. Let him first finish. We finish the first batch, then we come for the last one.
Chairman, the question that was I was asked to respond to is whether the National Treasury has complied with the threshold set in law for development budget under the supplementary. And Chair, under Section 15 of the Public Finance Management Act of 2012, it provides the thresholds that guide the preparation of the budget, and the development budget threshold is set at 30% of the total budget. Unfortunately, under the current supplementary, because of the deep cuts, we have deviated slightly. We are at 28.1% of GDP when you take the criteria as defined in the regulations. But fortunately, the law allows the Cabinet Secretary to deviate temporarily with an understanding that we will then go back under extraneous circumstances like currently. The law allows the Cabinet Secretary to deviate. So that's the position.
We can, through you, Chair, Mwangi of KRA, please introduce yourself, and then you can address the issues, especially on reforms going on at KRA.
Yes, Mwangi, just be brief.
Thank you, Chair. I just want to start by saying that in this year, 8 million taxpayers filed their returns compared to 6.3 that filed the previous year, that is 2023. That's a growth of 1.7 million taxpayers, a growth of 26%. So we are leveraging on technology to ensure that we simplify taxation. We make it easier for taxpayers to file and pay taxes. And just to mention a few of the technology that we are implementing, one of them is e-Teams that has been running, and we want to simplify it further so that then taxpayers are able to transmit invoices smoothly. Then we are also looking at integrating with various ecosystems, financial institutions. We are talking about property management system, so that we are able to have a view of what is happening in the property management space. We are also integrating with IFMIS, so that then we are able to see how much suppliers have been paid, so that then they are able to file their returns. So those are some of the reforms that we are implementing, most of them technology-based. And this is to ensure that we have visibility of transactions. That is the underlying technology platform, that we have visibility of transactions as taxpayers transact business. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much. That's very good and precise. Then, members, let's go to Honorable Makali Mulu, then Honorable Atandi.
Yeah, thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Chairman, I'll be very brief because a number of questions have been raised. But I also want to join my colleagues in appreciating the presentation. It was very well done. So I'll focus more on public debt. As as a result of the withdrawal of the finance bill, Treasury proposes to borrow additional about 141 billion. And when you look at the original medium-term debt strategy, the proposal was you do 55 external, 45 domestic. Now, the additional borrowing is being proposed to go domestic, which changes the figures now to about, domestic about 53, external 47. I was wondering whether now with that change, whether Treasury might have to look at the medium-term debt strategy, because the scenario analysis then might need to change. So I would want to hear your comment on that. And then tied to that question, when you push more to domestic borrowing, you know the impact you'll have on interest payments, because the domestic interest rates are quite high. So I would want to hear, is it that now we cannot access the external market so that we go for concessional loans? Or is it by choice that we want to go domestic? And then the second question relates to the development budget cuts. In some institutions and agencies, you have just done what I would call percentage cut. For example, you say cut 50%, 50%, 50%. For example, you look at the budget of the Auditor General. The development budget is cut by 50% across the board. And I was wondering whether, as you even do your 50%, did you consider the possibility of possibly, if you have 4 projects and you have done 50% for all of them, I was thinking you would have done away with the 2 where you say push this to the next financial year and then you do 2 to completion. So, especially, are you going to allow the MDS to write to you and possibly request that you push this money to 1 project which can be completed, other than having a situation where you have 4 projects all done 50% and not completed? Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Atandi.
Thank you, Chairman. Chairman, I just want to be very brief. First of all, I want to say that I'm impressed with the austerity measures that have been put in place by Treasury, and especially on the tax cuts. I think tax cuts are genuine. The only area that I wanted to say, to express my views, is that I've seen that salaries have been retained in areas where departments have lost almost everything. My view is that, especially those salaries for advisors, I saw advisors in the office of the First Lady and all those people. I think they need to go if we are really genuine about these austerity measures. And this also goes into advisors in State House and all these places. I think if we are genuine about these cuts, let everything go. And I also wanted to advise that even Parliament here, I think we are so many. We need also to see how we can cut MPs. We need a few MPs. This is, I think, the approach that we need to employ wholesome, because cutting the size of government is something that we need to do as a country. That is my view. The other thing I wanted to say, Bwana Chairman, is that I disagree with the Principal Secretary on his assertion that the economy is performing. I think we're looking at everything here. There's really nothing to buttress that assertion. If the economy was really growing, then we would see that reflected in the tax revenues. Tax revenues are almost stagnant, and we are not seeing anything going up. So unless there's evidence that the KRA leakages in KRA, if there's evidence that there are leakages in KRA, then I think that's something that we need to be shown. And maybe KRA needs to give us a report about how they project their tax revenues. And I know that, and my colleague observed on Rivuchian, that it is true that there are 2 KRAs. The KRA that is, we know, then there's the KRA that is silent. I think that's an area that we need to use to see that indeed the economy is going on. Thirdly, Mr. Chairman, I'm disappointed that in the current scenario where we have the youth uprising, and that has even caused us to withdraw the finance bill and etc., I have not seen anything in this budget that reflects that the government is trying to address the concerns of the youths. There's nothing on job creation, there's nothing on addressing corruption, there's nothing on attracting foreign investments. So I think these are the fundamental issues that I think this budget ought to have been re-engineered so that we attempt to address some of these issues. Otherwise, with this budget, I don't think that we are operating in the same space with the youth and with the situation we are facing as a country. Because if we do a budget that does not even answer one question, one concern of the youths, I think that's something that we need to look at, Mr. Chairman. Otherwise, the experts in Treasury, I think I need to challenge the experts in Treasury. The experts in Treasury that are here, I think I've seen you for many years since I joined Parliament. You have been the same people. You need to go back and think through how we can be able to help the economy. Because if you are going to sit there, the same people, and there's nothing new you are creating, then it is going to be unfair for the economy.
Chair, I didn't want to interrupt my good friend, but when you say there is nothing good and you are a member of the budget committee, and we've just placed money to employ teachers, interns, doctor interns, are those not young people in this country? Let's not mislead the public on the budget, and we know where the money is going to. Thank you.
Chairman, I don't think it's right for my colleague to try to answer me from this side, because this budget is generated from the other side, and there is not just teachers that will be employed that will make the youth of this country be happy. Who told you that the people who are routing on the seas are only teachers? The people routing on the seas are so many, and there are many issues that they are concerned about, which we need to address as a wholesome. And so I think my challenge to the Treasury team is quite in order. Thank you.
The Treasurer of the ruling party.
Thank you, Chair, and thank you, CPS and the entire team for the good presentation. We are all most of us we are all politicians here, but sometimes we don't need to play a lot of politics in serious matters like this one. I believe I'm in the UDA party and I'm the treasurer of the ruling party. So when you say that the projects were cut, those who voted no, and I'm one person who voted yes using the microphone, and my project has stalled for the last 10 years, and the money that was in that project was cut, almost 40 million out of the 100 million that was there. Let me not belabor that, but my question goes to, we have so many stalled projects currently in the country. We have quite a number of stalled projects. Is there a way that instead of putting 100 million in a project of 2.2 billion, and this guy has already other pending bills, is there a way we can maybe fund 2 or 3 projects to completion? Because it doesn't make any economic sense. You give a contractor 60 million who has a pending bill of maybe 500 million. This guy will not go back to site. If we get a way of funding 2, 3, 4 projects to completion, it will make more economic sense than funding a project 50 million for 10, 15 years. That project will not even make any economic sense. Number 2 is on the A&As, which I think my brother had already raised, the chairman, Honorable Ndindi Nyoro. We should get a way of these A&As from maybe KPA, KAA, getting into KRA, and that money being used, because these institutions tend to use that money, tend to create projects so that they can be able to absorb that money. Thank you so much. I don't have much to say on issues to do with youth. I think the JSS teachers are part of the youth. Thank you, and may God bless you.
Honorable Shinari.
Thank you, Chair. Chair, allow me also to appreciate the presentation by the Prime Cabinet Secretary and the way he has answered calmly our questions. I have only one concern, Chair. I would like to know the effect of the protestation that we are having on daily basis. Maybe you could have a figure to tell us how much the country is losing if we are not working and we are on the roads. Number 2, Chair, it's also a concern that the youth are saying they will occupy the airport. Why? Because they feel the airport is on sale. We have a clear understanding of what is the actual position, so that wherever they are, people can understand. We also understand that we have the social media, which is speculating a lot of things, Chair. That's my only concern. Thank you.
Honorable Ariwario Hasaka.
Thank you, Chair. My first question is to ask Treasury, where they have consulted the ministry on cutting their votes. Is there consultation? Chair, also, I differ with the party leader Ocheng. He said the people are being punished because of voting either no or yes. Some who voted yes because of their people, they have also been punished. Chair, this resettlement fund, the resettlement of the landless, you know there is basic needs. That is shelter, food, water. You are removing the resettlement fund. For that case, people affected by floods, for Tana River, Mai Mahiu and Muranga. Then, at the same time, you are saying the funding the critical government projects like coffee debt, 2 billion, sugarcane 1 billion, KCC factory, 500 million, and many others, Chair. So, Chair, can Treasury prioritize the suffering Kenyans? Because my people are living in the tented camps for the last 2 years, Chair. Those people are suffering, mothers, children. There are schools which have been completely damaged by floods. So, Chair, is the Treasury sincere to remove such a critical funds to help Kenyans who are suffering in the camps? Thank you, Chair.
Let's now give the National Treasury the opportunity to now respond, and we finish.
Chair, can I just say one thing? Just one brief thing. Chair,
you better be brief then.
Yes, it's very brief. Chair, if you actually look at what we are looking at from Treasury, is what they have provided, but not what has actually come from the various departments, the details. If you look at the social protection, what was presented by the Departmental Committee on Social Protection, Youth Enterprise Development Fund deducted 100%. Youth Empowerment Centers 100%. I can give you, but if you actually look at the part on youth, all of them are 100%. And then finally, Chair, because I've said I'm brief, the treasurer of UDA, it's very unfortunate because he has got a reduction of a whooping 40 million out of 100 million. Me from Suba North has lost a whooping 5 million out of 5 million. Equity. Equity must reign. Okay. So he has lost 40 million out of 100. I've lost 5 million out of 5 million. 100%.
Mine is that.
So I don't mind missing my 5 million.
The briefness has ended.
Equity.
The time I had given for a brief comment has ended.
My project has been there for the last 10 years.
Honorable Vice Chair.
Thank you, Chair. P.S. I also want to advise you on other areas where you can make savings. If we can do an audit of all government assets in terms of office space, so that once we identify, because there are some MDAs with a lot of space, others do not have, they're renting. So we're spending a lot of money paying for rent. This is government buildings. Then you just, allocate office space to those who do not have. Then we'll save instead of paying rent. I think that's also an area that we could explore once we carry out an audit. Thank you.
Member for Nyeri, very, very briefly.
Thank you, Chair. Chair, I just wanted to support the cabinet approval regarding Kenya Airways. I can see they want to do restructuring, and we've been losing a lot of money. There's no value for money for KQ. The other thing is about public participation. PS has talked about it. We are going through what we are going through because many Kenyans, they didn't know anything about finance bill. Actually, they were saying it is the president who has brought the finance bill. So I think it's always good and it's important for us to go to our local radios and everywhere and we talk to our people so that they can understand. Thank you so much for your good presentation.
Your Excellency, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and thank you to the members. Very quickly, the tax issues and the targets that will be dealt with by the KRA gentleman. But looking at the figures, from what I know, is that the revenue collection has been rising, although it may have been falling short of the targets. But he'll elaborate a little more on that. Let me start with a very critical issue. The cost of shutdowns. The Honorable Shinali has asked whether we have quantified it in terms of figures. I can only say this is work in progress because it will take some time for us to filter through all the details. But I can tell you that the initial estimate was close to 7 billion just from the mayhem that was visited on various business people and so forth, and the losses they suffered. And maybe that's actually a conservative estimate. But the daily cost of the various shutdowns remains high, and later on, I'm sure the numbers will feed into the economy and we'll start feeling the pressure. Let me discount immediately that the airport, Jomo Kenyatta Airport, is not on sale. This is a public asset. It is a strategic asset. And if it was going to be sold, you can only do it after a full public process that Parliament endorses. So anybody who is giving the impression that the airport, Jomo Kenyatta Airport, has been sold is not being factual. It is not true. What we need to appreciate is that we will need to modernize our airport. And that means investment will have to take place at the airport. We need a new terminal. You remember there was a greenfield terminal, but it never took off. The contractual engagement had its challenges. There was litigation, it stalled, and the rest is history because it stalled in court. So what we know that is important is that going forward, the Kenya Airports Authority must look at its investment program very, very carefully, make sure that everything is transparent, so that during the expansion process of the second terminal, if it is under PPP arrangement, and to let it be done properly, thoroughly, through the legal process, so that everybody knows what is going on. But I want to assure Kenyans that the Kenya Airports Authority is not up for sale. The other thing that I want to mention to Kenyans is that one of our long-term strategies is to create Nairobi as a logistical hub. And we are talking